May 24, 1941. 2:47 a.m. North Atlantic, 300 miles southwest of Iceland, the fabric ripples in the frozen wind. Lieutenant Commander Eugene Esmond grips the control stick of his Fairey Swordfish, feeling every gust tear through the canvas wings. The biplane shutters, wood and wire held together by rivets older than some of the men flying her. Through the open cockpit, salt spray stings his face. Below, the black ocean churns invisible in the darkness. Above, nothing but cloud and the faint promise of dawn that will not come for hours. He is hunting the most dangerous warship on Earth. Somewhere beneath that cloud layer, the Bismarck is running. 42,000 tons of German steel. 8 15-inch guns that can pulverize a cruiser at 20 miles. Armor thick enough to shrug off battleship fire. She'd broken out from Bergen 3 days ago with one purpose: to annihilate Britain's Atlantic convoys. To starve an island nation already on its knees. Yesterday, she'd proven her lethality. HMS Hood, pride of the Royal Navy, the largest warship in the world, had intercepted Bismarck in the Denmark Strait. The battle lasted 14 minutes. A single German shell penetrated Hood's magazine. The explosion tore her in half. 1,400 men died in the fireball. Only 3 survived. Now the hunter had become the hunted. But Esmond's weapon is a joke. A museum piece. A leftover from the last war that somehow survived into this one. The Swordfish, affectionately called the string bag by its crews, looks like it belongs in a farm field, not hunting capital ships. Maximum speed, 138 miles per hour. In a dive. With a tailwind. German Messerschmitts fly 3 times faster. The Luftwaffe calls them Kindermord, child's murder. The Germans aren't wrong to laugh. 2 months ago, Kriegsmarine officers watched newsreel footage of Swordfish torpedo bombers and genuinely believed it was British propaganda. Fabric-covered biplanes? Open cockpits? Fixed landing gear? Impossible. No modern navy would risk men in something so primitive. One admiral reportedly said they looked like flying coffins for optimists. Yet here they are. 9 Swordfish from HMS Victorious, dragging themselves through North Atlantic weather that would ground any sensible aircraft. Each plane carries a single 18-inch torpedo, 6 10-pounds of warhead that must be dropped at exactly the right speed, altitude, and distance, or it will either plunge too deep or skip across the surface like a stone. Esmond checks his instruments by the glow of the red cockpit light. His observer, Sub-Lieutenant Percy Jick, crouches behind him with maps and calculations, trying to navigate by dead reckoning through clouds so thick they haven't seen stars in an hour. In the rear gunner position, leading airman Albert Johnson mans a single Lewis gun, weapon designed in 1911. If they encounter fighters, he'll have approximately 4 seconds to pray before the Messerschmitts turn them into confetti. The radio crackles. Victorious has a radar contact. Bearing 005. Range, 40 miles. It's her. Esmond pushes the throttle forward. The Bristol Pegasus engine, all 690 horsepower of it, coughs and roars. The Swordfish climbs sluggishly through the cloud base. Around him, 8 other biplanes form up in a loose formation, their navigation lights tiny fireflies in the murk. They are about to attack the most powerful warship afloat. With aircraft the enemy considers beneath contempt. 3:14 a.m., they break through the clouds at 6,000 feet and the world turns silver. Moonlight floods the gap between cloud layers, a cathedral of light suspended over black water. And there, carved from shadow and menace, steaming at 28 knots through a white wake that stretches to the horizon, is Bismarck. She is monstrous. Even from 6 miles away, Esmond can see her lines, sleek, predatory, utterly modern. Her forward turrets swing slightly as she adjusts course, each barrel longer than a London bus. Smoke pours from her funnel, a dark banner against the silver sea. Her bow cuts the Atlantic like a knife through silk. This is not a ship. This is a statement. German engineering at its absolute apex, designed to obliterate anything Britain can send against her. And they're going to attack her in canvas biplanes. Esmond doesn't allow himself to think about Hood. About how those 15-inch shells can fire every 20 seconds. About how Bismarck's anti-aircraft batteries include 28 guns specifically designed to swat aircraft from the sky. About how the fireball that consumed 1,400 British sailors is still fresh in every crew member's mind. He thinks only about the angle. The Swordfish must approach low, under 100 feet, or the torpedo will break apart on impact. They must fly slow, under 90 knots, or the torpedo won't release cleanly. And they must get within 1,000 yards before dropping, because these old tin fish don't have the range of modern weapons. 1,000 yards from a battleship is point-blank range. It means flying straight at her guns for nearly 2 minutes while she fills the sky with lead. Esmond keys his radio. Short, clipped, British understatement, line astern. Follow me down. The 9 swordfish peel off one by one, diving toward the water. The wind screams through the struts and wires. The altimeter spins backwards. 4,000 feet. 2,000. 1,000. The ocean rushes up black and terrible, and Esmond levels out so low his wheels nearly kiss the wave tops. Behind him, Percy Jick is shouting course corrections, but the words are ripped away by wind. Albert Johnson in the rear gun position is praying. Esmond can't hear the words, but he can see the gunner's lips moving. Then Bismarck sees them. The first flak bursts bloom like orange flowers in the darkness. Then dozens more. Then hundreds. The entire starboard side of the battleship erupts in fire. 28 anti-aircraft guns open up simultaneously, 105 mm, 37 mm, 20 mm cannons, all spewing metal into the air at a combined rate of 8,000 rounds per minute. Tracers arc across the water in glowing streams. The sky becomes solid flame. Esmond flies into it. The first shell burst catches the Swordfish to his left. The biplane disintegrates. One moment it's there, the next it's falling in burning pieces. No parachutes. No time. Just gone. He doesn't break formation. The Swordfish bucks and shudders as shrapnel punches through the fabric wings. He can hear the canvas tearing, feel the airframe shaking itself apart. A 37 mm round passes so close it sounds like a thunderclap inside his skull. The smell of cordite fills the open cockpit. His hands are steady on the stick. 800 yards. Bismarck is turning now, her captain trying to present the narrowest profile, trying to comb the torpedo tracks. Her guns traverse, following the Swordfish, firing so fast the muzzle flashes blend into continuous light. The ocean around Esmond erupts in geysers where shells impact the water. He's flying through a corridor of death. 600 yards. He can see German sailors on the deck now. Men in grey uniform sprinting to battle stations. An officer on the bridge pointing directly at him. The massive forward turrets swinging, not at Victorious on the horizon, but at him. At a fabric biplane worth less than a single one of those 15-inch shells. They're going to use the main guns. On biplanes. 400 yards. Esmond pulls the torpedo release. The Swordfish lurches upward as 1,600 pounds drops away. The torpedo hits the water clean, running hot and true, a white trail arrowing straight toward Bismarck's hull. Esmond banks hard right, so low his wingtip nearly touches the wave crests, and that's when the world turns white. The 15-inch shell misses by 30 feet, the concussion alone nearly tears the Swordfish apart. The shockwave hits like a physical fist. The biplane flips sideways, inverted, spinning toward the ocean. Esmond's vision goes gray. His instruments shatter. The control stick is dead in his hands. For 3 seconds that stretch into eternity, he's falling, the black Atlantic rising up to swallow him whole. Then the wind catches the fabric wings, the Swordfish shudders, groans, and somehow, impossibly, levels out. Esmond is flying again, 15 feet above the water, every wire singing, every strut vibrating. Behind him, Percy Jick is screaming something about the tail section. Albert Johnson's Lewis gun is firing in short, defiant bursts at the mountain of steel they're fleeing. Esmond doesn't look back at his torpedo. He can't. Survival now means escape, means threading through the forest of flak still erupting around him. Another swordfish explodes to his right, cartwheeling into the sea in flames. That's two gone. He counts the remaining biplanes climbing back toward the cloud base. 6. 7. 8 aircraft still flying. They'd sent 9. The cloud swallows him and the world turns gray and silent. Only then does he allow himself to breathe. His hands are shaking. His flight suit is soaked, seawater or sweat, he can't tell. Percy Jick taps his shoulder, gives a thumbs up. They're alive. The swordfish is flying on prayers and spite, but she's flying, behind them, beneath the clouds. Bismarck steams on. Unharmed. Not one torpedo connected. Not one. 8 aircraft attacked through a firestorm that should have obliterated them all, and they achieved precisely nothing except proving the Germans right. The swordfish is obsolete. A relic. A joke wrapped in canvas. Esmond sets course back to Victorious, watching his fuel gauge drop toward empty. He doesn't know it yet, but this failure has taught the Royal Navy something critical. The swordfish is too slow to be shot down. May 26, 1941. 8:47 p.m. 400 miles west of Brest, France, Lieutenant Tim Could doesn't believe in miracles, but he's staring at one. Bismarck is still afloat. Still running. For 2 days, the entire Royal Navy has hunted her across 1,700 miles of open ocean. She disappeared into weather so foul that reconnaissance aircraft couldn't find her. Destroyers burned their fuel to empty searching. Battleships steamed in the wrong direction. For 30 hours, the most wanted ship in the world simply vanished, then a Catalina flying boat spotted her wake. Now she's here, damaged, leaking oil, but still making 20 knots toward the safety of French ports. Once she reaches Luftwaffe air cover, she's untouchable. The Royal Navy has perhaps 6 hours to stop her. After that, she disappears into Brest for repairs, and the Atlantic convoy routes become a slaughterhouse. Could swordfish rocks in the wind as 15 biplanes from HMS Royal form up in the failing light. They'd already attacked once today. At 2:50 p.m., they'd launched against what radar said was Bismarck. They'd flown through storms, released their torpedoes, and watched them streak toward their target. Then someone identified the ship. HMS Sheffield. A British cruiser shadowing Bismarck. They'd nearly sunk their own fleet. The magnetic detonators on the torpedoes had malfunctioned, exploding prematurely. 11 torpedoes wasted. Could had watched his weapon detonate halfway to the target, the warhead erupting in a tower of white water. If the detonators had worked properly, Sheffield would be on the bottom. 30 British aircraft would have committed the greatest friendly fire disaster of the war. They'd landed back on Ark Royal in disgrace. The armorers had worked like demons for 3 hours, replacing every magnetic detonator with simple contact pistols. Old technology. Reliable technology. The kind that only explodes when it actually hits something. Now they're going back. Could peers through the gloom at the ocean below. Visibility is maybe 2 miles. Rain slashes horizontally through the open cockpit. The wind is gusting to 40 knots. This is weather that keeps sensible aircraft on the ground. But the Swordfish was designed for North Sea storms, built to launch from carrier decks in conditions that would kill modern fighters. The fabric wings flex and bend, absorbing punishment that would snap metal. And there, emerging from a rain squall like a ghost, Bismarck, but she's different now. Her bow is low in the water. Oil streaks her wake. She's firing, but the flak is less coordinated, slower. She's been hurt. The chase has cost her. But she's still a battleship, still armored, still lethal. Could pushes the stick forward and dives toward the wave tops. This time will be different. 8:53 p.m. The attack begins in chaos. The 15 Swordfish don't form neat lines this time. They can't. The weather is shredding formations before they can establish them. Wind gusts throw biplanes sideways. Rain reduces visibility to near zero. Some aircraft approach from starboard. Others from port. Some high. Some skimming the waves. It's not tactics, it's desperation hurled at steel. Hood levels out at 60 feet, through the rain and spray. Bismarck materializes like a fortress rising from the sea. Her guns are already firing, streams of tracers reaching out, probing the darkness. But something is wrong. The flak is scattered. Uncoordinated. The battleship is maneuvering sluggishly, her turns delayed, mechanical. She's wounded. Not fatally. But wounded. Earlier that morning, 2 shells from HMS Prince of Wales had struck home during the initial engagement. One penetrated a fuel tank. Bismarck has been bleeding oil across 2,000 miles of ocean, a black trail leading every British ship straight to her. Admiral Lutyens knows she can't outrun them anymore. She can only reach France before the wolves close in. Hood steadies his approach. 500 yards. A Swordfish to his left takes a direct hit, a 105 mm shell that catches it perfectly. The biplane doesn't explode. It simply stops flying. One moment it's airborne, the next it's belly flopping into the Atlantic in a cascade of spray and twisted metal. Hood sees it happen in his peripheral vision but doesn't react. Can't react. His entire world has narrowed to the growing silhouette of Bismarck's hull. 400 yards, the torpedo feels heavy beneath his Swordfish, 2,000 pounds of steel and Torpex explosive. The contact pistol has been set for 8 feet depth. If he drops too high, it'll porpoise. Too low, it'll dive under the keel. The window for success is measured in feet and fractions of seconds. His observer shouts a course correction. Hood adjusts 2 degrees. 300 yards that he can see the faces of German sailors now. Men crouched behind anti-aircraft guns, faces illuminated by muzzle flash. An officer on the bridge with binoculars trained directly at him. The massive swastika painted on Bismarck's foredeck, bold, red, arrogant. This ship was meant to rule the Atlantic. To break Britain's supply lines. To herald a new age of German naval supremacy. Hood releases the torpedo, the Swordfish jumps upward. He banks hard left, threading between shell bursts, and allows himself one glance back. The torpedo is running true. Sub-Lieutenant John Moffat is 19 years old and has been flying for 8 months. His Swordfish comes in from the port quarter, the worst possible angle. Bismarck is turning toward him, presenting her narrowest profile, making herself the hardest possible target. Every instinct screams at him to abort, to pull up, to circle for another pass. But there won't be another pass. The light is dying. The fuel is running low. This is the last chance. Moffat holds his course point 200 yards. 150. German tracers are so thick they look like solid bars of light. His fabric wings are shredded, he can see holes opening up, canvas peeling away, but the Swordfish keeps flying. These old biplanes are almost impossible to kill. There's nothing vital to hit. No fuel tanks in the wings. No complex systems. Just wood and wire and fabric that bullets pass through without effect. 100 yards, Moffat can see the exact point where Bismarck's armor belt meets the waterline. That's the target. That narrow strip where steel is thinner, where a torpedo might, just might, punch through. His hand hovers over the release lever. The mathematics of trajectory and speed and angle collapse into pure instinct that he drops, the torpedo splashes clean, trailing white bubbles. Moffat pulls up so hard his vision tunnels, hauling the Swordfish into a climbing turn that should stall her but somehow doesn't. Behind him, his observer is counting seconds. 20. 25. 30. Then the shout, hit. We hit her. Moffat doesn't celebrate. He's too busy flying, too busy dodging, too busy being 19 and terrified and alive. But he sees the geyser, a massive column of water rising against Bismarck's stern. Sees the battleship shudder. Sees something fundamental change in the way she moves through the water. The torpedo has struck aft. Near the rudders, and in the armored steering room 40 feet below Bismarck's waterline, something catastrophic has just occurred. The blast wave crumples steel plating. Fragments puncture hydraulic lines. The compartment floods in seconds. Men die instantly, crushed by pressure and drowning in oily darkness. On the bridge, Admiral Lutyens feels the deck shudder beneath his boots. His helmsman spins the wheel. Nothing happens. He tries again. The wheel turns freely, disconnected. The ship isn't responding. Engineers scramble below, trying to assess damage, trying to jury-rig manual control. They report back within minutes. The rudder is jammed. Locked at 12 degrees port. Bismarck is steaming in a slow, inexorable circle, toward the British fleet. May 27, 1941. 8:43 a.m. Bismarck dies slowly. Through the night, she has steamed in circles, a crippled giant limping through darkness, unable to steer, unable to escape. German engineers worked through the night in flooded compartments, trying everything. They attempted to blast the jammed rudder free with explosives. They tried to counter-steer using propeller thrust alone. They even sent divers over the side in 40-foot swells to cut the rudder away by hand. Nothing worked. The torpedo from Sub-Lieutenant Moffat's Swordfish, a fabric biplane the Kriegsmarine had dismissed as harmless, has accomplished what the entire Royal Navy could not. Bismarck is defenseless. And now, emerging from the grey dawn, come the wolves. HMS Rodney and King George V approach from the northwest. 2 British battleships, their main guns already trained on the limping German warship. At 8:47 a.m., Rodney opens fire from 25,000 yards. 16-inch shells arc through the morning air, each one weighing over a ton. The first salvo lands long. The second straddles Bismarck perfectly. Then the British battleships find their range. What follows is not a battle. It's an execution. Bismarck fires back, her forward turret still operational, her gunners still fighting. But she can't maneuver. Can't dodge. Can't do anything but absorb punishment. Shell after shell slams into her superstructure. Her fire control directors are smashed. Her bridge is obliterated. Admiral Lutyens dies at his post. No last words, no dramatic moment, just sudden darkness as a 16-inch shell turns the command center into twisted metal. The range closes. 16,000 yards. 12,000, 8,000. At point-blank range, British shells are penetrating armor designed to resist battleship fire. They punch through belt armor, through deck plating, through bulkheads. Inside Bismarck, the carnage is unimaginable. Magazines explode. Ammunition hoists detonate. Men are incinerated, crushed, drowned as compartments flood. The ship is burning from stem to stern, a floating inferno that refuses to sink, because German engineering is that good. Even gutted, even ablaze, even with her entire superstructure demolished, Bismarck's hull remains intact. Her armor holds. The British pour 400 shells into her, some estimates say more. 2 battleships firing for 90 minutes at a target that cannot escape. And still she floats. At 10:15 a.m., torpedoes from HMS Dorsetshire finally tear open her underwater hull. Bismarck begins to list. Slowly at first, then faster. Her remaining crew, 900 men out of the original 200, abandon ship. They jump into an ocean churning with oil and debris and the bodies of their comrades. Some sing Deutschland über alles as they leap. Some simply stare in shock. The unsinkable battleship is sinking. At 10:39 a.m., she rolls onto her port side, her starboard propellers rise from the water, massive bronze screws still gleaming in the morning light, still turning slowly. Then she slides beneath the Atlantic. No dramatic bow-up angle. No final explosion. She simply goes down, leaving behind a whirlpool of wreckage and swimming men. Dorsetshire begins rescue operations. They pull 110 men from the water. Then a U-boat alarm sounds, real or imagined, it doesn't matter. The British ships flee, leaving 800 German sailors treading water, watching their rescuers steam away. Most will die of exposure in the next few hours. Some cling to wreckage for days before drowning. 5 will eventually be rescued by other ships. Of Bismarck's crew of 2,200 men, 114 survive. The news reaches London within hours. The Bismarck is destroyed. The threat is over. Britain's Atlantic lifeline is secure. There are celebrations in the streets, headlines screaming victory, King George VI sending congratulations to the fleet, but in the Admiralty, older officers understand what really happened. The most powerful battleship Germany ever built, faster, stronger, more heavily armored than anything Britain possessed, was stopped by a weapon they'd nearly retired. A biplane designed in 1934. A string bag that looked like it belonged in a museum, not a modern war. The Fairey Swordfish, mocked by German admirals, dismissed as obsolete, written off as a relic, landed the killing blow. Not through overwhelming force. Not through superior technology. But through sheer bloody-minded determination. Through pilots willing to fly straight into flak that should have annihilated them. Through canvas wings that flexed instead of breaking. Through simplicity that proved more resilient than sophistication. The Germans had laughed at Britain's floating coffins, until one of them jammed the rudder of an unsinkable ship and turned the pride of the Kriegsmarine into a tomb for 2,000 men. Sub-Lieutenant John Moffat, 19 years old, 8 months of flight experience, never celebrated his kill. He seldom spoke of it. When pressed decades later, he would only say, "I was just doing my job." The Fairey Swordfish would serve throughout the entire war. It would sink more Axis tonnage than any other Allied aircraft. It would fight in the Mediterranean, the Arctic, the Pacific. It would be the last British biplane to see combat. And it would earn a reputation as one of the most reliable, most beloved, most improbably effective aircraft in military history, the string bag. The floating coffin, the plane that killed Bismarck.